Welcome back to episode 2 of the Texas Trifecta podcast. I am Scrody Johnson, and this is our fantastic resident doctor of the lawyer of the podcast, Dr. Donald Rammer Esquire.
Applause. Oh wait, that was supposed to be that.
There's no studio audience, Dr. Rammer.
Shit.
We know we thought you were booked on Ricky Lake. Unfortunately, we do not have a studio audience, nor large, thick thighs.
Oh, Ricky Lake, she was so hot back in the day.
Are you talking about Hairspray era Ricky Lake, or are you talking about like show Ricky Lake?
I've only seen the show.
Yeah, she was actually pretty nice looking back then.
Well, fuck all that shit. Let's get to it. Hopefully, nobody's going to be all offended this time around again. Otra vez, way. But we're just going to jump right into, I don't know, conversation, fun, and laughter. I guess, maybe, possibly. Could be serious. I could be crying. I don't know.
Yeah, you might be crying. Yeah, possibly, most likely. Jagged edges.
So what's going on today? What'd you do today? What's going on? Did you read anything, or you just went to work like a normal person?
I went to work like a normal person. I did see a look at a little bit of the JFK files the other day. Not much.
The other day, it just came out last
whenever
night.
they came out, I looked at them and just kind of glanced over some of the PDFs. It's just, unfortunately, over decades of miss and poor management, actually excellent management, because most likely they did it on purpose, everything's out of order. So, yeah.
Well,
so
I
see it be in about a month or two before some autistic kid finally organizes everything and puts it on X.
I hope they pay him more than a teacher.
I hope so too. I wish everyone wouldn't pay teachers. Like
I disagree with that one. I think they should pay, they should at least get 6 figures, I think.
Most teachers are trash, though. And it's not because of payment, it's because they're trash.
Well, I mean, you weed them out when you're paying them that much. But we need a lot of them, and they should be paid well. Maybe they'd take more initiative. Maybe because not all of them are like that, obviously. But
maybe just make it to where you don't have to have as much schooling, possibly, because some people are natural teachers anyway.
Like me?
Well, you did teach me how to break into cars, so I will give you that.
Anything below 1985?
I could break into any Ford before 2005.
Oh, well, good for you.
Yeah, it's quite fantastic. If you own a Ford and you lose your keys in your car, you learn how to break into them pretty easily.
Yeah, just back in the day.
Oh, yeah. But, just kind of... I spent a couple hours today watching these, like, small channels, really small channels, maybe 50 viewers, and they're just liberals screaming at the camera, and it's mainly just blue-haired women.
Really?
Blue-haired women. And
they all look related?
It's like, I wonder if the blue hair dye is causing it, because it seems like all the crazy ones are blue hair.
I've noticed that. Is that a thing? Is that like a trend or something?
I don't know,
what
dude.
Is that? Like...
Drilling into hairstyles here, I want to show you this new hairstyling trend right here on YouTube, or on the X right here. Look at that. Look at that new hairstyle trend. Isn't that gorgeous? You should have Mrs. Rammer have her hair done like that.
It's like the shortest bangs ever. It kind of looks like she has Down syndrome.
Down syndrome, Jimmy Neutron. I'm serious. Like, not against the Down syndrome people. I mean, I've known them. So
that is.
But yeah, that's insane. Like they think that looks good.
I don't know to who. They're lesbians, right? Maybe to each other.
I don't.
Do they like each other?
It's not nice to call them just lesbians.
Okay, whatever they are,
because they might be like pansexual, which means they love. They go in there and start having sex with your nice fine china.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, or like a pillow or something,
or like your tea kettle. Pansexual.
Well, that's shitty stupid.
Oh yeah.
What else went on today?
I mean, to be honest, I didn't watch much news today.
What? Not you.
I worked today.
So they're sending me a bunch of shit.
Yeah, I didn't see.
Well, what about the JFK files, which I didn't? I worked today too. But what about the funny ass shit? I mean, calling out Joe Biden as a traitor. What a piece of poopy.
Well,
big giant piece of dookie.
That is something that did come out, I think, yesterday about the AutoPen scandal, which a lot of the...
JFK told, written down in the files, he were a traitor from JFK, as it said.
Are you sure it was
JFK of Jr.?
Are you sure it was... Oh, JFK Jr.?
Yeah.
Oh, it was in a letter, a memo. Yeah, I heard about that.
In the files from 1969, which is my favorite number.
It stopped from 69 because he was a little kid back then.
Okay, whatever.
I think it was a later memo that he wrote, like, when he had the magazine. He had that George magazine. It was called George.
Dude, like, I have no
That's
fucking
what he
clue
was.
what
He
you're
was
saying.
an editor of a magazine.
Who was?
JFK Jr.
Oh, was it like a gay
Because
magazine or like a Maximum?
I think it was
like
I'm not really sure what it was.
was it a business magazine?
I have no clue what it was. I never looked at it, never read it, and never delved into it. I just know he was up over a magazine called George. I don't give two shits about it.
Was it spelled Jorge?
With a J. It's George with a J. Or the Stormy Daniels with a capital D for dick in her mouth.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. So what else is going on? Why don't you pop some stuff up over there? What was going on? That's the only thing I heard. Nothing. Nothing's crazy coming out. Like I'm kind of like
today. I think was kind of.
I think it's like a bunch of bullshit. It's all. Well, I mean, I know it's a bunch of fucking just bullshit.
Let's see here. Let's see what's trending here. Because
we should just
I watched the news last night, but it was boring. I mean, it was just nothing cool.
You know why, right? Just because they're hiding some shit.
Of course they are. They're always hiding something from us. They want us to be little, little people that they can like puppet around and manipulate. That's the whole point of the media and shit. I mean,
well, yes.
It's been going on since the '60s. I mean, if you look at it, like ever since the beginning of our big three or big four media, depending on what era you're talking about. Like if you're talking about the '50s, there was 4 major news stations in the United States. You had the Dumont Network, you had ABC, NBC, and CBS, and then you had Fox come along in the '80s when the Dumont Network. I think it died in the early '60s, late '50s. And
they all owned by the same person, or what?
They were owned by, like, for example, CBS was owned by Westinghouse, like Westinghouse Electrical.
Yeah.
Basically made like all kinds of stuff, light bulbs, washing machines, TVs, everything. Big, massive conglomerate. And you had RCA or General Electric, depending on the era, owned NBC. And then ABC was independent, I think, until the early 60s when it was bought by a conglomerate. So, for most of our existence, our media has been controlled by the corporations that run the country.
Ding, ding, ding! Side note by Shrote.
Let's see what's trending.
It's a little, side note, fucking brain fart there.
But yeah, that all that stuff's just like bogus and stuff, and then it got even more conglomerated into the 80s.
Oh, shit.
You go into the 80s. You want to hear about the craziest story you'll ever hear is Disney. Disney was like a small independent company for like up until the 80s, right before.
No, I don't know. I thought it was black and white. Wasn't it black and white? Well, that was Mickey Mouse, right? Wasn't that back?
Well, I'm talking about Disney after all that, after Walt Disney died, post 1966. Walt Disney died in 1966, as we all know, of lung cancer. Supposedly his head was cut off and froze. No one really knows. But Disney kind of failed pretty. Like they had a few hits here and there, but throughout the 70s and early 80s, they weren't doing very good. They were actually, at one point, they ended up going through a hostile takeover. This other company was trying to take them over. This big financial institution, basically like these people like buy companies and then gut them. Basically, what happened to MGM. Like modern MGM is not MGM, people.
Right.
You know what it is? It's United Artists. The old studio in United Artists. MGM was purchased by Warner Brothers.
Okay, well, just keep on track here.
Oh, sorry about that. I got a little off track on a tangent there. But anyhow, Disney was being ran by what's the guy's name? His name was Ron Miller, I think was his name. He was a ex-football player, and he was ended up taking over Disney and being the only last person related to Walt Disney to run the company. And he was kicked out of the company, and they did all this finagling, and he ended up with Michael Eisner.
So is that before or after all of the satanic human trafficking child?
That shit's been going on in Hollywood since the beginning. Like, I mean,
but that's
decades.
like, okay, so 60s, pre-60s, I'm assuming, right? 40s,
but
50s,
I think it was more in a smaller. I think it was all on a smaller level back then because at one point Hollywood now is really like liberal and socialist. Well, they're not really liberals. We just put that label on them, but they're not. They're more of I can't think of the word I'm looking for here. They're more of just communists, just red-blooded communists for the most part. Like they go out and they're like they spit on the American flag pretty much, and they make fun of everything that's going on in the country. And there's people I've had conversations with people for the last 2 years saying we were in a recession. Like, I've noticed it.
What about Disney? What about the Disney?
I got off on a track, didn't I?
Yeah, I'm wondering about what happened with the Disney thing.
Okay, well, Disney basically, they went and did a hostile takeover. Didn't get took over. The guy that was related to Walt Disney is married to Disney's daughter. He got kicked out of the company, and they hired on another CEO. All of the stuff during the Disney Renaissance got started under Walt Disney's son-in-law.
Was that like Bambi time?
No, Bambi was in the 40s, dude.
I thought it was like in the 80s.
Bambi came out was like 40 years old by then, dude.
Well, it got shot that many times.
I think the last movie that was made with Walt Disney alive, I think was The Jungle Book. I think it was The Jungle Book.
Okay, so they remade everything in the 80s, and they remake them every year.
They didn't remake nothing. Disney had this thing that they would do to sell movies where they would say, "Released from the Disney vault due to theaters," and they did that to keep their movies where people were still interested in them. So it's really brilliant. Like every 25 years, this used to be the thing back.
Pull that thing up to your mouth there a little bit.
Like back in the days before film, like you bought film and movies and stuff, they would re-release Snow White like every 25 years. Like on the dot, they would re-release it to theaters.
Oh, of course, oh yeah.
And they did it.
I'm gonna do that.
They did that. Now they do it like I remember in the 2000s they really started.
So how did that come into like the Disney and then CIA stuff?
Well, the CIA stuff that all happened back in the 50s because Disney was a whistleblower to the CIA.
Walt Disney or the corporation?
Disney.
Yeah, but it was in the 40s.
Walt Disney was a very big anti-communist. He was very big anti-communist.
What would they call that now? A communist.
No, he wasn't a communist. Though.
I know, but that's what they would call it now. If he was like right now.
They've been saying he's a Nazi for years, but people don't understand is that in the late 30s here in the United States, Franklin Roosevelt and our government was kissing the Nazis' ass. Because because everybody saw that the German economy was improving, because most people don't know this. And I'm not saying that any of that stuff over there was good. I'm just giving you a historical background on it. Well, after World War II, or World War I, right before World War II, the Germans were basically starving. Their economy was dead, all this stuff. Hitler came into power, and he kind of got stuff sort of where they weren't starving as badly. This is before all the death of the Jews and everything started really taking place. And all the other countries around the world, like especially like the original United Nations countries, were like kissing Hitler's ass really heavily. And like that's where Henry Ford...
Sound familiar? Anybody?
Where...
Sound familiar?
Like Henry Ford. Henry Ford, he was a racist anyway. He was an awful person anyway. But that's where he met with Hitler and all that stuff, is because the Germans were trying to learn he was trying to build a people's car, which was the Volkswagen. If you look at pictures...
Volkswagen.
If you look at Volkswagen...
What does that mean?
People's car, basically.
Oh, for what kind of people?
It was just a cheap car for the people. It was everybody's car.
For his people?
Mercedes were for rich people.
Was it all the people?
Yes. That's how communism works. They had tiers. Like if you were a rich person, you drove this car. If you were poor, you drove this car.
Oh, how
You had no
shitty
choice.
is that? That's very shitty.
In fact, in like Russia and shit, you would have to you'd fill out an application for a car, so it'd take up to 3 or 4 years to get a new car.
What?
Because they didn't like. I'm talking in Soviet Russia.
Okay, yes,
Soviet.
yeah. Okay.
I'm talking about your what do they call them? Trabants and shit. Which I think those were mainly West Germany.
So, anyways, Walt Disney's working with the working against the communists.
He was against
communism. And then
communism.
he gets the CIA and he gets blackmailed, probably.
You want me to start over in the 30s with the Nazis and then drift into the communism shit?
Sure, I
So that way,
because this is very interesting.
That way, it's tracked a little better. There's actually a video.
I canceled Disney fucking 2 years ago because they're just sick and demented.
Well,
it's
not
sad.
just that. Like,
it's sad because I grew up on that. And
not just that. They were editing their old films. They were editing shit out of them.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
it's like changing history.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's like Warner Bros. With the Band 11. Okay, you know about the Band 11?
No, but we're not going to go into that.
Well, let me go into it just for 1 second because I'll explain it. There was these 11 animated shorts that were made between like 1930 and like 1951. They are the
for
Disney,
the war shorts.
They're Warner Brothers shorts.
No,
they're
for the wars.
No, they're not war shorts because the war shorts were never meant to be watched by us. They were meant to be watched by soldiers, so they're a little bit more vulgar and a little bit more, a little bit more offensive, which are hilarious. Like Sergeant Snafu is hilarious, or Private Snafu. You go into your Band 11 though, they have like cannibals and stuff in them, and they're like really racist cartoons. But Warner Brothers, I think it was in like 2005, they actually released like where you could buy the collection of them just for historical purposes, unedited, and they also released a bunch of the collections unedited, like the Droopy cartoons with like all the really offensive stuff in there.
Droopy.
Droopy is offensive.
Motherfucking Droopy's all heroined out, and he's all fucking. He's all
Hello,
Oxycontin.
all you happy people. I have all the theatrical shorts, the original ones, and they're
Those would be cool to fucking.
They're so offensive, dude, and they're like they always had that big tittied redheaded lady in there, and it's great. It's great.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Okay.
Y'all should watch that shit. I want to see that shit.
But they took the high road and they released all that stuff where people could go buy it. You can't go watch it on a streaming service, but you can go buy a physical copy of it and watch them, which is I'm totally okay with. It's kind of like the old sentiment back in the 80s and stuff, or in the 90s, when you'd watch a show, it was offensive, you just turned it off and turned the channel. That's basically the mantra.
Yeah, here you don't. Yeah, back then you couldn't call anybody because there was nobody to call. I guess you could yell at your neighbor.
Yell at your wife.
Yell at your wife. Beat your kids. That's what they used to do.
Dog?
Beat your dog.
Beat your wife and your dog with your dog.
Right. Holy shit. Fuck you, Maxwell. Fuck you.
But any of them, we was on talking about Disney and stuff and the different corporations. Well, all these companies and stuff, basically the government was reaching out to these different companies. Ford was one of them because they were trying to build cars, and they're also trying to build and make animation and stuff. So they went to Disney and asked him to do this, and Disney didn't want to be involved with politics. He didn't want to have nothing to do with any of that. And they basically held a gun to his head, showed the Nazis up there, and they had to walk through his animation studios. That's where he gets attached to the Nazis. He never did anything else for them.
Wait, so he just taught them how to animate?
He didn't teach them nothing. He just let them watch their animation process.
Oh, and they're like, oh, that's how you do it. Because they couldn't figure the fucking thing out. They make fucking nuclear bombs and shit and all kinds of stuff, but they can't figure out how to animate shit. Come on, man.
Well, because Disney at the time had a really fluid animation style, which he basically kind of like with Snow White and stuff, it was done with rotoscoping, which is where you draw over film.
Right, yeah.
Which is the same thing that the Fleischer brothers did with like the Superman cartoons in the 40s. And it makes fluid animation. Well, a lot of people didn't really
get that.
Didn't understand it and stuff. And he showed them how to do it quickly and all that stuff, and shortcuts. But Disney was involved in that. And then in the 40s, they had the Red Scare, which this is where all of the bad publicity from Disney comes from. It comes from pamphlets that they released during the 40s because Disney had his own union. All the other Hollywood unions were big unions. His was his own company-wide union where they could go, if they wanted to have a disagreement, they could go and do collective bargaining with Disney himself, and he would work with them. That's how he did it. He let them unionize.
Nice.
But he wanted to keep the communism, because there was this communist guy, I forgot his name at the moment. I have to rewatch that video. But he was talking about this communist. He was a big communist guy. He was known for being attached to the Soviets. He had all these really shady characters around him, and he was trying to take over all the Hollywood unions. And he tried to take over Disney's union, and Disney didn't have nothing for it. And that's where he got involved with the government, letting them know where the communists were. That's where the Red Scare comes in. By the way, it has nothing to do with Joseph McCarthy. It's pre-Joseph McCarthy. Everybody always blames Joseph McCarthy for the Red Scare, and in blacklists in Hollywood, it wasn't. It was due to, that was a separate thing. That was the House of Un-American Activities. I have no idea who
the fuck that is, but it's okay.
Let me tell you how to do it here. This is how to know. It's called House of Un-American Activities. Joseph McCarthy was a senator.
Yeah.
He was not in the House of Representatives. So it was a House of Representatives. The House did this one, and then the one with McCarthy was mainly going through the government and finding spies within the government, which is separate. That was a Senate thing. It's a common misconception to blame him for that.
Like spies like us.
But there was, in fact, you can go on YouTube right now and actually watch Walt Disney talking to the government about finding communists within his, trying to infiltrate his studio and stuff and create propaganda.
Did you say propaganda? Propaganda or proper
propaganda? Like that's the main thing. If you watch certain movies and stuff, the communists were making movies in Hollywood in that time. There's a lot of them.
That's yeah. The brainwashing. I don't even know like when this this probably started.
It started probably back in the 30s.
The 30s of a lot of brainwashing
30s was
techniques.
it. And you had a lot
and they really mastered all of this if you think about it.
Yeah, and then the government, like I understand part, like I think the government originally, I think they had good intentions in a way. Like
yeah, but obviously, yes. I mean, obviously, but power and greed and
the road to hell is paved with good intentions, you know. Correct.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah.
But you had a lot of actors back then that went and spoke at the Senate hearings and stuff about all that, or because they were doing a bunch of different stuff with because there was a bunch of they had the blacklist and stuff. Actually, it was the House. Went to the House and talked to different people. Because you had Disney there. You had a bunch of actors.
Walter was there physically?
Walt Disney, yeah. Walt Disney was there. He spoke there and spoke very eloquently.
Yeah.
But he was crazy. But yeah, he was just saying.
So when they build all the pedophile fucking tunnels and shit and all that was in the 80s, 70s. When did they build Disney World? That was given to him by the FBI or CIA.
Disneyland was built in 1955.
What, Disney World?
I don't remember.
What was the one that was given to him by the government?
I don't know.
The property.
I really don't know.
I think it was Disney World. They gave him that land. I don't know.
Yeah, I brushed up all this stuff in a little while.
Well, fuck.
But it's an interesting story. And
why does it have to be like that?
Like a lot of the pedophilia shit was going on in Hollywood. Even like back in the day, you heard about the child stars and the weird stuff that would happen to them. I mean, I think Shirley Temple even talked about it in a few interviews. And you had like Jackie Coogan. You know who Jackie Coogan was?
No.
That was Uncle Fester from Addams Family. He was a child star. He was actually co-billed with in a lot of Charlie Chaplin films.
No shit.
And they called him the Kid. And he played in a lot of movies with him. And Charlie Chaplin helped get a law passed that kept parents from squandering their entire fortunes. Like if a kid made millions of dollars, which he did, he was in a lot of big films.
Yeah. I guess
squandering it.
I guess that didn't work out for Lindsay Lohan and Macaulay Culkin.
There are loopholes. There are loopholes to get around it.
Britney Spears. You see that shit? That shit was crazy lately. That bitch is nuts.
But there's loopholes around it. Is what the problem is.
Kind of reminds me of my sister.
But back in the old days, you know, like Jackie Coogan, his mom like ran off with his manager and like left his dad and shit. His dad died in a car accident afterwards, with him in the car with him, and his brother and his dad were like mortally injured.
No way.
And then like shortly after that, his best friend was kidnapped by these two thugs, two white guys that kidnapped. They basically owned all of the.
Glad you pointed that out, by the way.
Reason I'm bringing it up is because what comes to a little bit later in this story. But Jackie Coogan, his friend, was kidnapped. They owned a bunch of department stores, like these big Macy's-style department stores, you know. Because used to, we had different department store chains per state. This guy, the family owned them, and they kidnapped him and got this big ransom. They beat and just did horrible things to this kid. He was like a teenager. Beating, just tortured him for hours. And they got to get the money. They ended up catching these two guys, and they ended up lynching them. And the governor of California...
So they lynched two white guys.
They lynched two white guys, and Jackie Coogan held the rope.
I don't know who that is.
The actor, Uncle Fester, the kid.
Oh, no way.
He held the rope. There's a picture of it. And you know what? The governor he was a Republican. He turned his bright eye and just said, let it happen. They tortured
What
that
year
poor
was
kid
this?
for hours. It's back in the 30s.
Holy shitballs.
Based as hell.
Little public lynching. That's terrible.
Yeah, it was basically an angry mob that lynched them.
Well, I mean...
Because the family was like, they did a lot of good things for the community.
Yeah, I mean, it's terrible.
But yeah, Jackie Coogan was badass. Uncle Fester, that goofy guy with the light bulbs in his mouth, was actually a badass.
That's crazy shit.
Had a crazy ass life.
That's crazy shit, man.
Yeah. A lot of interesting articles on that if y'all want to look further into that. It's all out there. It's pretty interesting.
Nobody knows the fuck that. I didn't know who that was, but...
I mean, it's a crazy story, you know. So it's a piece of history that's kind of forgotten.
What time is it?